So good morning, you guys. AEW just got some criticism this weekend for the angle that they did with John Moxley trying to pour Windex down the throat of Orange Cassidy. And I really wanted to talk about this. I think what a lot of people are saying about the Moxley faction or the Death Riders is that it's not really getting over with AEW and it's actually hurting AEW. And also, it's one of the reasons why the ratings are going down. And it's also very apparent to me that World's End is not going to be a good pay-per-view. I think that they have an overemphasis on what's going to happen at many different shows, and I understand why they have to advertise these shows. But also, there's only emphasis on the Continental Classic and really no other division. Maybe one of these things where Tony decides to make matches at the last minute instead of just giving us stories to get invested in. So I do want to talk about why the Death Riders are not successful and also why on this Collision taping it's a great example of why they're not successful. That one of my big criticisms about John Moxley is that when he talks, he sounds like a poor man's Bray Wyatt. And that just means he speaks in a way that does not make any sense, really. So I'm going to read off a couple of these lines. Let's talk about people who don't want to be AEW champion, and there's a lot of them. That makes no sense, really, because, there's a lot of people in AEW who do want to be champion. So, that's kind of hypocritical. There's not a single soul in this building that wants to be AEW champion. Once again, as I said, that doesn't make any sense. What about Christian Cage? What about somebody like Will Ospreay and other things like that, so it's automatically, not making sense really. And then the other thing about that really is if you're saying that nobody wants to be champion, you're saying it in a way really where it's almost like, you're the only person that cares about being champion. And I really think that proves it because there's really no AEW champion division really. We're not really familiar with people who are just directly AEW champions. There's a lot of fluctuation really. So I really feel that also isolates a lot of wrestlers who want to be AEW champion or be part of that division. He says Jay White is a child that doesn't know the first thing about being a champion. I understand that's an insult, but he was the NJPW champion. So there's inconsistency. I really think that all this is trying to set up Orange, Hangman, Jay White, and Moxley to have a fatal four-way. And he also says, Orange was not the one foretold in the prophecy. What prophecy? And again, like I said, when you have a wrestler like Bray Wyatt who speaks in a very, ambiguous way, one thing they did with Bray Wyatt is before they put a title on him or put him in the World Heavyweight Championship picture, they gave you a lot of time with Bray Wyatt. So you kind of got familiar with his dialogue and his character a little bit. With Moxley, they just throw him into the title picture with this talking in an abstract way, really. So that's one of the reasons why it's not translating. It does come off with somebody who clearly needs a speech pathologist or an English teacher versus, an actual champion. So I think a lot of this ambiguous dialogue crap is not really working. And then Orange Cassidy comes in and says, I can live without ever being AEW World Champion. I can't live with you being AEW World Champion. I'm not going to stop until you are not the AEW World Champion. So that's also bad as well, really, because, he's going to be in a fatal four-way match. That's what they're setting up, really. And it doesn't make sense that you have somebody who's in this match and he's talking about, what he doesn't want to be, he can live without being champion, because that almost says he doesn't really care about being champion or not. He should be more kind of driven to be AEW champion. And again, that's also going to make people care about him a lot more if he's I want to be a champion. I want to take this title from you. I'm sick and tired of your ego trip. And nobody understands what the hell you're saying. Everybody understands what the hell I'm saying, type of thing, really. So it just doesn't work, really, because I think that with AEW now, they really need people who want to go after the title. They need to kind of establish, here's our AEW Heavyweight Championship division. Here are people who are going to wrestle for the championship, the next couple of years, really. But when you have somebody who says something like this, it removes credibility from Orange Cassidy. So it's him hurting himself. And then the other thing, too, is that, speaking of which, is that, it's kind of stupid for him to even do this because, first of all, let's talk about physics. He's coming out there by himself, and he's throwing items at these guys. And then also it's a 4-on-1, really. He knows that they cheat, really. and he gets hit by Marina Shafir. So it's almost like he puts himself in a dumb situation. So it just looks kind of stupid, really. Like he would, like realistically, he wouldn't do that, or he would like carry maybe, you know, a weapon or a pipe or something like that, and have, like, you know, some type of backup, really, you know. So that's kind of like, you know, like, as I said, I think that, as I said, they really need to have like a story editor to kind of be like, okay, well, this is a little dumb. We're going to change some things around to make it make more sense, or the presentation needs to be better. So what happens after this is that Orange Cassidy, FTR, and the Death Riders all do a segment. So it opens with Orange Cassidy alluding to AEW having that there's a show in Asheville, North Carolina, Fight for the Fallen. So, you know, this is like their New Year's show. So I think what they're trying to do is saying, okay, FTR is going to main event that show. Also, part of what they're going to do is they're going to probably donate all the proceeds to the hurricane relief effort of the hurricane that happened earlier this year. So, you know, that's a good cause, really. But then it's also bad too, because, you know, if you're not smart, I think this is setting up FTR and Orange Cassidy versus the Death Riders. And, you know, obviously that means Moxley is going to retain after AEW World's End, really. So, you know, this could be something that's stretched out until, you know, maybe Double or Nothing, or Revolution Double or Nothing, or even like the All In show, which would be disastrous if it was All In, because this has not been working. So why, you know, do something with this like the next maybe 8 months, really? You know, this is not working. So that's kind of not good, really. And then what happens is it cuts from, you know, them talking about, like, you know, proceeds and bring attention to a charity, and then it cuts to, you know, Moxley trying to pour cleaner down Orange Cassidy's throat, really. And this is a little bit controversial, because I need to say that in the history of professional wrestling, obviously, you know, you've seen things that are like stupid and unrealistic in every single company, really. You kind of see, you know, the eye for an eye match and WWE. You kind of see, you know, other things as well. Like, you know, when Kane tried to electrocute Shane McMahon with, you know, like balls and everything like that, really. You know, so there's a bunch of unrealistic stuff in professional wrestling. But I really think that, you know, just putting cleaner down Orange Cassidy's throat, I think it's two things, really, that it is taking it a little too far, because that's something kids can imitate. But there's been other things that have been inappropriate on all shows. So you can't really, like, do that. And then I also will say that, pardon me, I have a cold. In professional wrestling, you also want to do some foreshadowing and payback, really. You know, so what's going to happen at Fatal 4-Way? Is Orange Cassidy going to pour cleaner down Moxley throat? This is professional wrestling. I think that you need to hit somebody with an object or do something a little crazy like that. So I think that they need to have an object, like maybe a cinder block or a crowbar or something like that, really. That would work for Moxley, not a situation where they're trying to, like, pour Drano down somebody's throat, really. It just doesn't really fit in professional wrestling that well, but I do have to give them some leeway, because in professional wrestling, there's been, like, other, like, cartoonish stuff. But I just feel a little bit more cartoonish. It does feel a bit more like shock value. It does feel like, and it's also like a bad idea too, because it's very easy for kids to imitate stuff like that, because there's easy access to chemicals around the house, really. So this is not really a choice that I like, but there's been way worse choices in professional wrestling history. The next thing that I will say is that this leads to another problem. FTR gets involved and saves Orange Cassidy, and it looks like there's going to be a conflict between the Death Riders and FTR, really. And this is bad for two reasons. That, number one, I understand the purpose is that for the Asheville show, you know, if you have Moxley, Pac, and Wheeler Yuta, or Cesaro, if you have, like, the four of them, you know, 3 of the 4 face FTR and Orange Cassidy, that's a good main event for that show. That's what they're trying to set up to. But, you know, it's bad because Orange Cassidy now looks like a wrestler. You don't know which division he's supposed to be in. You made him like he's in the World Heavyweight Championship picture right now, but this is saying that now he's kind of like a tag team or a trios wrestler. So this is not really that good. And then the other thing too is that, you know, wouldn't it be better if it was Private Party? Because it would give, you know, Private Party an excuse at World's End, really. And while you have the actual show, and that's nice, really, I would think that you would want to do something with Private Party And since the Death Riders are the top heel group in the company right now, why not have Private Party interfere and be those guys? And then they're going to set up, okay, they're going to do like a trios match, and that's going to be on one show, and then another show, then on that World's End, it's going to be Pac and Wheeler Yuta, or Pac and Wheeler Yuta going after the AEW tag team titles. Now you have people in top feuds going in for titles, really, So that's kind of, even though they would be a double champion, but that's kind of like what you guys do, really. Or you do something like, you may say, okay, well, Orange Cassidy's going to pick somebody on the roster, and maybe he's going to pick somebody on the roster, like maybe Hook or somebody like that, and he's going to say, okay, well, the three of you guys are going to face these guys for their trios titles or whatever. Really, it's a little bit of a mess, really, but leaves it as a mess, really. And then I was watching Swerve versus Hangman, and it's done a lot better, really. With Swerve versus Hangman, when Hangman burns down his house, we already kind of know that Swerve and Hangman are both in the World Heavyweight Championship picture. It's contextualized that they have a feud with each other. They hate each other. It's been because they've been feuding for over a year. The other thing, too, is that, honestly, when you hear Hangman talk, he speaks clear English. He's not speaking in any type of riddles or trying to sound philosophical or abstract, really. And then when he burns down Swerve's house and all that stuff, it makes sense. He's saying things like, okay, the reason why he's doing this is because Swerve harassed his family. The reason why he's also doing this is because he's basically saying that he's embracing revenge and glory altogether by doing this. And then also the other thing too is that Swerve talks about Swerve's house all the time, really. So it is kind of like, it works with that, really. So like there's a lot of things that the Death Riders don't have when you kind of compare it to Adam Page, really. Like, Adam Page really is trying to make a lot of sense. He's sticking within his character. We know who his character is. We both know that, his goal is to, do damage to Swerve enough so he never wrestles for the heavyweight title again. And obviously got that through that win and stuff like that. So, there's a lot of things that, Moxley is not doing, really. And I really think, just to reiterate, is, when you compare him to Adam Page versus Swerve, is you really don't understand what his goal is. With Moxley, he's really trying to come off like nobody deserves to be the AEW champion, and except for me. And the reason why I'm holding this title is because I deserve it, and I want to prove that other people don't deserve it. And clearly, if nobody can beat me, it means that they're not fighting hard enough or not doing what it takes, really. He could say that a lot more simplistically. It doesn't need all this abstract dialogue. And within that, he can say something like, Switchblade Jay White, Hangman Adam Page, Orange Cassidy, you know what? They've not been champions of this company. They've not been... two of them have not been champions of this company. Adam Page was not champion for that long. He's forgettable. You know what? I deserve it. I've held down this company, and now I want to be the king. I want to be the king of this company forever. Really, I want to be the forever champion forever because I deserve it. Nobody else deserves it. And if you're challenging me, you're insulting me. You're insulting my intelligence. If he said something like that, that would make a hell of a lot more sense, really. And then he can also say something like, I was mad that Bryan Danielson became champion or competed for the title when he wanted to retire. I'm so sick and tired of, people. I don't see people having the same grind that I do. I deserve this more than anybody else. I work harder than anybody else. And now it's time for me to hurt people who think they deserve it when they don't deserve it. So what I would do is I would take all that dialogue I would just say, then I would have somebody write it down and put it in our AI and just be like, okay, here's the character that I want to create. Somebody who feels like other people should not deserve to be champion, and he's arrogant, and he's going to punish people. So that's what Moxley should be, really, So, it just doesn't make any sense with him. And then also, too, as I said, that why would you have Orange Cassidy say something like he doesn't care about being AEW champion? Because automatically when you say something like that, that just means that he's just, he just doesn't care about it. And that's a bad thing because obviously if you want to be a champion, oh yeah, if you obviously want to be a champion of AEW, you have to deserve it. Yeah, sorry, there's a fucking asshole outside. Yeah, sorry, there's a fucking asshole outside. Sometimes I wish I had a brick just to throw at their car. Not kill somebody, but throw a brick at their car. It happens every single day. Maybe I'll use this. Xerox thing. Maybe I'm gonna use this Xerox thing. I'm gonna throw it at them because that's fucking ridiculous. So as I was saying, that's kind of thing with it. It just doesn't make any fucking sense, really. He needs a story editor, and he needs to say you're gonna stick within these parameters, So that's kind of the problem, really. It just doesn't make any sense. And then you also have a wrestler like Orange Cassidy saying I don't care about being a champion, and I can live with that, really. Why would you say something like that when more than likely you're setting up a fatal four-way? Oh, well, I don't really care about being champion. That makes no freaking sense, really. You look at somebody like Jeff Hardy, when it was Jeff Hardy, Edge, and Triple H, really. Obviously, Jeff Hardy could have said something like that. You know what? I've never been champion, but I don't like you, Edge, because you're kind of a dick, really, And I'm not going to be, and I don't care if I win or not, but I don't care about you becoming champion. I'm going to do whatever it takes for you. No, that doesn't work, really. You have to show somebody that cares about being champion, cares about representing the company, and then you'd be successful. And then the other problem with Orange Cassidy, I will say this, is that his storyline is really, does he want to be the heart and soul of AEW? Does he want to be that guy who, does he also want to be that guy who is on Team AEW, or is he going to betray Team AEW? And I know they're trying to set up dimensions and set up, is he going to turn heel or whatever, really, but that's not going to work out, really. He should never be an AEW champion because he's a comedy wrestler. Number two is that if he turns heel, which I think he should do, I really hope 100% he should be a very serious heel. He should change his character. And once you give that character 6 months to a year, then you can put a title on him if it works. If it doesn't work, then I would say then he's just useless, But yeah, it's just a clusterfuck, really. And then it also kind of goes with what I've said about AEW. One of the biggest problems is, and I understand that they're in a rock and a hard place, is that they have way too many special shows, really. So when you have way too many special shows, what happens? You're trying to set up all these things, and it creates a huge clusterfuck because, with this, they're alluding to what's going to happen at World's End, and they're also alluding to what's going to happen at the Fight for the Fallen show. So, and that's not good, really. And also, too, this may have been a rush segment because they have, a bunch of Continental Classic matches, So, it's poor budgeting and time. They need to also ask, maybe TNT and other shows, give us an extra hour, please, if we need to do more storytelling. That would be appropriate. Or you can do something with, Death Before Dishonor. Final Battle, where you can say, okay, we're going to have 2 Continental Classic matches on this show, really. And just to kind of get it out of the way, really, So there's a lot of things that they could be doing better. But, it's a clusterfuck. It makes no sense. Moxley's character makes no sense. He speaks in an ambiguous way. He's doing things that I don't think that, you can really pay off, really. Because like I said, if he's using Chem Cleaner as a weapon, how can another wrestler pay that off? That you can't really get karma. Are they going to have 3 people in AEW? When you do a triple threat thing, are you going to have 3 people grab John Moxley? And 2 people grab John Moxley, have another person pour down his throat, really. And then also if you do that, that's not really appropriate for professional wrestling, because what do you do with that? What do you do with that? That's just going to poison somebody and he's going to throw up, really. It's not if you were going to hit, if you're going to take Moxley as a pipe and you whack somebody with it, then you can kind of fall back from it. But pouring clean down somebody's throat, that's not something you can kind of pay off with, you know. So it's just dumb, really. And as I said, they really need a story editor, because a lot of the stuff that they do nowadays is very, very dumb.